What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. The NFL season kicks off tomorrow night. I cannot wait. The Giants play 1 p.m. on Sunday. Football is officially back. But today, we're not going to dive into that Vikings game. Maybe just a little bit. We want to react to something that happened last night on Hard Knocks with the Chicago Bears. Joe Schoen made a little guest appearance. Call it a cameo in a TV show if you wanna. And he dropped a little bit of a tidbit of information here talking about the quarterback position for the New York Giants. If you guys didn't see the clip or didn't watch the episode, Joe Schoen was kind of just laughing on the sideline with Ryan Poles at this past weekend's matchup between Georgia and Clemson. Now, context there's a projected top 10 pick playing in that game. It's quarterback Carson Beck. And while Joe Schoen was chatting with Ryan Poles, Hard Knocks picked up a little line from him saying, it must be nice not having to worry about scouting the quarterbacks. That's what he said to Ryan Poles. I mean, Ryan Poles kind of finished his sentence, but the implication was there. It was a funny little clip. It sounded like it was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but once again, Hard Knocks, HBO, just exposing Joe Schoen and the Giants for having not a ton of confidence in the future of their quarterback position. So we want to go ahead, dive into it, unpack it, give you guys our reaction to this clip from Joe Schoen, give you guys our thoughts and opinions on what that means for him and the direction he's taking this team this season and all of that stuff in between. So we won't waste any more time. Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And what was your reaction to this clip from Joe Schoen on Hard Knocks?
Well, you know what? I'll start by saying this. For all those that in the comment section of our video talking about the quarterbacks and scouting them and questioning why we were doing that, this is why. Because Joe Schoen is at these games to scout quarterbacks. And we figure, might as well give you guys all the information and have some fun with it as the season progresses here. But, I mean, how many times are the Giants going to come out and say blatantly that they are looking to replace Daniel Jones? I mean, good God, you talk about us not having confidence. The team is showing it every single freaking week these days that they are looking past Daniel Jones. I mean, he literally, how much more information do you need? They tried to draft Drake May. They tried to trade up and get it. Joe Schoen was over here talking about scouting quarterbacks, and it's so nice not to have a quarterback situation if you're Ryan Poles of the Bears. I mean, we're not the ones saying it. It's the general manager of the Giants, and that is... I mean, to me, if you want to call it concerning, I call it proactive. I call it due diligence. I call it smart. Joe Schoen is doing the right thing by going and scouting these quarterbacks because if Daniel Jones fails, you need to have all the information possible. You need to be prepared and positioned to know who you're going to take next year. Carson Beck looked really good in that second half of the Georgia game. Really efficient passer, super accurate. He's got the ability to throw the ball downfield. He just doesn't do it because he doesn't have to. Similar to Patrick Mahomes, he could tear you apart playing a West Coast style offense, but if he needs to, he'll sling that freaking rock downfield. You know what I mean? So the decision making, the decisiveness that Carson Beck does contain is impressive and encouraging. There are other quarterbacks, obviously, that we discussed in the most previous episode, talking about the different performances from the week one of college football. But Anthony, how much more blatant, how much more obvious, how much more public could the Giants make it that they are looking to the future beyond Daniel Jones? Does that mean they're going to replace him 100%? Absolutely not. There's a world where he has a crazy good year and finds his way out of this thick kind of the woods here. It's really difficult to imagine that he is going to have a monster, and I wouldn't say difficult to imagine, it's very improbable to imagine that he is going to have an MVP caliber season or even throw over 30 touchdown passes. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's possible. It's just improbable based on a very large 5-year sample of action that we have to base our opinion off of. Now, he hasn't had a good offensive line, and we don't know if our offensive line is going to be good this year. We hope it is. We hope he has time in the pocket. We hope he wins football games because, as Giants fans, we want to win football games. But if we don't, Joe Schoen's doing the right thing. I just didn't expect him to make it so public that, they're there to scout quarterbacks. And now you could say, and people always do, well, they have a good cornerback. They have other good players. They have this. They have that. They could not be there to scout quarterbacks. We now know they were there to scout Carson Beck, right? They were there to see, could this guy be the future of our franchise? Does this guy have the composure, the discipline, the efficiency, the decision-making, whatever variation of variables you want to kind of piece together there? They were there to scout Carson Beck. And I think we all know they were going to do that anyway. I don't think that's that surprising. But I am surprised that, Joe Schoen went out there and publicly said, maybe didn't even realize he was being recorded, that, hey, we're there because we have a very problematic situation at quarterback. It's nice, and saying it's nice to know that you're not here to scout quarterbacks. like that is a very clear indication they don't know what the future looks like. They do not have much confidence in Daniel Jones. So, Anthony, I imagine you're probably in the same boat as I am. This one was definitely another public outcry of we don't trust Daniel Jones. I don't know how many more times the Giants front office can say it without Daniel Jones being affected, or rather people who still believe in Daniel Jones. I mean, your general manager is telling you that they don't have much confidence in him with the way that they've operated this offseason, with the way things that they've said, things that they've done. It does not lend itself to believe that they have a long-term future, and they consider Daniel Jones as a long-term piece as a franchise quarterback of the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it at exhaust all offseason long, and now we're less than a week away from the regular season, and the topic is getting brought up again. I think it's bad timing, and it's rather unfortunate for Joe Schoen and the Giants, but the only way for this to get silenced, for all of these conversations about the different Hard Knocks previews and clips that we saw of Joe Schoen discussing the possibility of moving on from Daniel Jones, the only way for it to get silenced is for him to walk onto that field on Sunday and lead the Giants to a win. Then it's quiet for a bit. He has to play better. I mean, that's just the simple fact of the matter. He has to stay healthy, he has to be on the football field, and he has to be competing at a high level. Then we won't talk about the quarterbacks anymore. But for now, we are doing our due diligence, as we said. Joe Schoen also doing his due diligence. Joe Schoen was at that Carson Beck game, Georgia versus Clemson, scouting the quarterbacks, doing the due diligence. So I think you brought up a good point there, Alex, mentioning how when we did that episode the other day, we titled it Due Diligence. There were still people in the comment section who were upset by us looking at those college quarterbacks, but doing the due diligence is exactly what New York Giants general manager Joe Schoen is doing, as seen in that Hard Knocks clip with the Chicago Bears. So I think it's interesting. I think that it's probably going to get blown out of proportion because we already know that Joe Schoen is looking at quarterbacks. He's been doing that for several years, even since he joined the New York Giants. He went to some of the scouting events to check out Ohio State and C.J. Stroud in an offseason where the Giants were never going to draft a quarterback. So you do have to keep in mind that he is just doing due diligence at the end of the day. Like, he's doing his job. But on the other hand, the Giants have made it very clear that they are concerned about Daniel Jones' health and his long-term health and his ability to stay on the field. Whether they believe in him as a player and his ability to perform or not, it's not even part of the equation here. They are clearly concerned about his health. That's what they've said all offseason long. Even in those Hard Knocks clips where they talked about potentially trading up for a quarterback, the number one thing that they kept bringing up was the health concerns with Daniel Jones. I mean, guys, he's coming off of a torn ACL. It's the second time in his career that he's had a season-ending surgery due to an injury. First time in 2021 due to a neck injury, which, again, he had a neck injury last season to miss some time. Then he tore his ACL. The guy has had a lot of significant injuries. If you're going to make the argument in the comments that the Giants should have moved on from Saquon Barkley a year ago because of his injuries, then I don't know how you can't make the same argument for Daniel Jones and you defend him and use the injuries as an excuse for him. They're not an excuse. Players need to stay healthy. The players who are available, I mean, I think that all Giants fans should have learned this watching Eli Manning for nearly 2 decades, right? Availability sometimes is the best ability. The Giants always knew that they were having the same quarterback under center every single game playing at the highest level that he can. You don't really know if you have that every week with Daniel Jones because he is often injured. So that's obviously a big cause for concern, and right now, I'll just say that I am encouraged for the future. I'm encouraged to see Joe Schoen doing that due diligence, looking around at these quarterbacks, and preparing for whether you consider it to be the best case or the worst case scenario, moving on from Daniel Jones potentially next offseason. But again, like I said, the best way for Daniel Jones to silence this crap, to make it so that we don't get any more of these clips throughout the season, we don't hear any more of these rumors, just play better football. Stay healthy. Score some touchdowns. 15 touchdowns doesn't cut it. I've said it once. I'll say it again. It's not good enough for Daniel Jones to be good enough anymore. He's got that injury clause in his contract, so if he's not balling out, the Giants, they're probably not going to keep putting him on the football field and risking him getting hurt and triggering that injury clause. So he has to be excellent. He has to force the Giants to put him on the field every single week. He has to be that good. So for Daniel Jones, this is a very crucial season. We've had a few crucial seasons in the past for Jones. This is by far the most crucial. His back is against the wall. Now let's see how he responds. And Alex, I also have to bring this up. I am so tired of hearing about the beard. Daniel Jones' beard means absolutely nothing to me. The fact that the reporters are asking Mike Kafka whether or not they think Daniel Jones should keep the beard, why are we doing this? It's just some facial hair. I don't care about him shaving his beard or wearing his beard. I care about him scoring touchdowns. I care about him leading the New York Giants to wins. This feels like the most Giants thing, focusing on the most irrelevant garbage that does not matter. I get it. People are going to say, oh, we're just trying to have fun. It's all just in good fun. I don't care. I want to watch this team win games. These reporters should not be asking Mike Kafka about his goddamn beard. They should be asking Mike Kafka about what his role is in this new and changed offense with Dable calling the plays, how he's been working with Daniel Jones to help him recover from his injury and get better on the football field. Why are we asking him about his beard? So had to go on that tangent really quickly, Alex, but if you want to respond to any of the things that I said, especially about Daniel Jones needing to respond to Joe Schoen this season, I can't wait to hear your thoughts.
I mean, come on, dude. You don't care about the beard? We could be asking really good questions about the strategy this upcoming week, and we could be doing some really good stuff and getting some really good information about the upcoming game, but instead we're getting all this awesome information about a beard that I couldn't give two shits about, mainly because he's wearing a goddamn helmet. Nobody's going to see the freaking beard. Like, who the hell cares about this? Like, this is where we're at. I'm going to say this one time, Anthony. One time, then we're done with it. We are at the point in the fan base that we are hoping that Daniel Jones his beard is the catalyst for him turning his career around. People actually think that him having a beard is superstition enough for him to play well. Well, guess what, guys? He had a freaking beard in his last preseason game when he threw a pick six in his own end zone. The beard doesn't mean shit. Doesn't mean anything. I'm so freaking tired of these ridiculous, things that we just attach ourselves to hope to God that some guy plays better because he has facial hair. I want him to play better because he is being paid $40 million to freaking play football. Read the goddamn field, stand in the pocket, make good throws, be accurate, capitalize on a superstar rookie talent that you have in Malik Neighbors. That's all I want to see. Don't care about the facial hair. I want to know about the freaking game this upcoming Sunday. Not Daniel Jones' facial hair or freaking Kay Adams dating him. I don't give a crap about that either. It's just nonsense BS to distract us from what could be a very problematic start to this season if they don't get their shit together. And I'm sorry for my cursing, but that's how I feel. It's distractions. I want to see winning football, not Daniel Jones' facial hair, okay? I think most people agree with that, right? Most people probably agree with that. Just stupid narratives to distract us from what is actually happening. And that leads me to my next point, Anthony. And this really also kind of pissed me off. Talking about Adoree Jackson's contract really quickly. I just want to get this out of the way because I think it is an important thing to say. Adoree Jackson just signed a one-year, $1.7 million deal with the Giants. Why the hell did he not sign this deal months ago? It is a drop in the bucket. He is making no money. Zero guaranteed dollars. They could cut him tomorrow and it wouldn't mean anything. Once he plays this upcoming weekend, he'll be guaranteed $1.5 million in base salary. Why was Adoree Jackson not practicing all summer with this team? Now, he could have just been sitting out as a veteran saying, I don't really want to practice. I don't want to go through the hoops. But guys, the Giants just straight up lied to us like a week ago, saying that they felt good about their secondary. They felt good about their cornerback room. And now they signed a $1.5 million player, literally a veteran minimum contract almost, with incentives built into it. And he's going to be starting on Sunday. They just signed a guy that has not practiced all summer to a almost veteran minimum deal to start at CB2, or at least probably split snaps with Nick McLeod. And they feel confident about this secondary. That's really concerning to me. They never felt confident about the secondary. They said it to the public, but they were lying. There was a complete lie. And they just signed a guy off the street who hasn't practiced all summer to a really small deal to start without any practice under his belt for the most part. That's concerning to me.
I don't think they signed him to start, and that's why the deal is so cheap and why it's so incentive-based.
He's going to start, most likely.
From what I was reading was that he has to do a lot and has to play a lot more than they expect him to in order to hit those incentives, because it's completely unguaranteed. He's not going to start week one. He shouldn't. He'll probably play.
He might start week two. Whether the cloud gets cooked by Jordan Addison.
Right. That's exactly the problem here is he's probably going to start at some point this season, whether we want him to or not.
One way or another.
It's just an unfortunate state of the Giants secondary, and it's really just an unfortunate state of the Giants roster. Like, if the Giants sign anybody off the streets tomorrow at almost any position, they're probably playing a significant amount of snaps, and that just tells you that this team is far away from being competent. Unless they go out there and surprise us, good coaching can always do wonders. players exceed expectations all the time. Maybe the Giants go out there on Sunday and they kick ass. But no, you are right. Like, there is a lot of concern about this CB2 spot. I don't think Adoree Jackson is the CB2. I think Nick McCloud is going to be starting as the CB2. But how great of how encouraging even is that? How excited are we to see Nick McCloud as CB2? Like, I'm happy that he won the starting job this offseason. I was rooting for him to do exactly that, and I think he has some potential. But I have to also recognize the severe risk that the Giants are putting out on the field with this inexperienced and unproven talent in Nick McCloud as their second starting cornerback. So a lot of question marks in that secondary. Adoree Jackson isn't necessarily the answer, but like I said, Alex, I'm not going to change my stance too much. What I think this is for Adoree Jackson, he just elevated the floor of the Giants secondary. He didn't elevate the ceiling at all. They're not a supremely better team. The secondary isn't, going to rise up and to be top 10 in the NFL, but their floor, I don't think they can be number 32 in the NFL anymore. Their floor is a little bit higher. So I like that. And again, one other detail on the contract, there's a $250K per game roster bonus. So that tells me that they don't even know if he's going to last the entire season. He could only be on the roster for the first 4 weeks. He plays so poorly, they just move on from him, maybe make a trade or sign somebody off of a practice squad. So again, I'm not putting too much stock into the Adoree Jackson move. I think he just, at the very least, elevates the floor, improves some of the depth on this team. But no, he's not a starter, and I doubt we see him in a starting capacity this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think that Adoree Jackson is probably going to start games this year. I think the $250K roster, bonus, whatever it might be. Listen, his numbers are pretty similar to Stephon Gilmore's last season. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't, Stephon Gilmore wasn't exponentially better than Adoree Jackson. He gave up over 700 yards and multiple touchdowns. And he was playing his own position. Adoree Jackson was put in the slot and got hurt. So, I do think that one of them got 1.5 mil guaranteed and the other got 10 mil. So, you look at the kind of correlation there, the comparison rather. I think the Giants did the right thing by getting Jackson, but it definitely indicates their confidence in the secondary, because I do think he's going to start sooner rather than later. Nick McCloud had some good moments, but he also got cooked by Garrett Wilson. It was ugly. I mean, he got destroyed by him. And look, Garrett Wilson is an all-pro receiver. He's going to do that to most players, so I'll give Nick McCloud a little bit of a break there. But he has a major test in week 1 against Jordan Addison. Addison is a very good football player. And then Justin Jefferson on the other side. Really, if Sam Darnold just makes the throws, our secondary is going to have to step up. They're going to have to be there in coverage. So this is a really big opportunity for Nick McCloud. The leash, though, Anthony, in my opinion, is very short for Nick McCloud. Very short. We're talking about if he has a tough week 1, Adoree Jackson will be there probably starting in week 2. Like, that's how quickly that transition will probably be, in my opinion at least, because I just don't trust Nick McCloud to be a starter. I think he's a fine backup, but he's never been a starter, and he never has even sniffed that until now, because we just had nobody else. Cordell Flott got injured, and Nick McCloud was the only guy there. I mean, Trey Hawkins isn't starting, so it was Nick McCloud's job basically to lose, and there was nobody else even competing with him. And Flott has zero experience for the most part on the outside. So, at this point in time, the Jackson signing was a really good move. They needed to do it, and I bet you he starts sooner rather than later. But with that being said, let's turn to something a little bit more positive with this offense and talk about, obviously Joe Schoen saying those things publicly definitely rubbed me the wrong way. A lot of what Joe Schoen has said recently to me has really pissed me off. He's lied to the public. He's lied to the public blatantly. Said we feel good about our secondary, and then signed Adoree Jackson 2 days later. Took that as a lie personally. It was at least withholding the truth because they didn't feel confident in their secondary options. At this point in time, when it comes to the offense, it's Daniel Jones' team. It's his team to run. What I want to see this upcoming week is leaning on Malik Neighbors. Get him the rock. This season, to me, is about developing Malik Neighbors and turning him into the superstar receiver we know he can be. That is my goal. I have 2 other goals, though. One of them, actually more like 3. Establish the offensive line. Take big steps in the right direction. Need to compound good weeks there. Stay healthy first and foremost. Second thing, Theo Johnson. Need to see him become a key component in this passing game and develop as a blocker. He could be a long-term solution at tight end if the Giants give him the sample. I think that they should be giving him plenty of action to see how he can develop there. And I think they will. The third thing is, love Tyrone Tracy. Want to see what he can do. I want to see Tyrone Tracy get plenty of reps, plenty of opportunities, and Eric Gray as well. This running back by committee, ride the hot hand. If some guy's playing well, keep going to him. You know what I mean? I think this team has plenty of talent to get the job done, but they got to just, be efficient, lean on the guys that are performing, lean on the guys that have that much upside, and I think they'll be able to at least perform a lot better than last season. I imagine your goals are probably similar to mine in a lot of ways.
Sure. I mean, number one goal is to win football games, but if, we're taking the pieces to win those football games, what we're focusing in on, the one player that I have to mention that you didn't, Deonte Banks. Like, I need to see this guy turn into that CB1, and I think that he's on his way there. I think he's already proven to be really talented, and I think everybody knows how much I like Deonte Banks and believe in him as a CB, but in order to be that CB1, you got to start shutting down the likes of A.J. Brown and C.D. Lamb and Terry McLaurin. Like, you got to start having some really vintage, like, signature moments and matchups against those players. So I need to see the secondary take strides. It's not just, how much of an impact does Adoree Jackson make as a spot starter throughout the season? It's really how much of an impact do these young players who are developing make, like Deonte Banks, like Tyler Nubin. Like Jason Pinnock is still relatively young. He's entering his second season as a starter. Does he continue to develop? Does he earn that contract extension midway through the year, right? Like, these are the young players in that secondary that will make or break this defense, because we know what we got on the defensive line. Like, I love Kayvon. I love Burns. I love Dexy. I think Azeez Ojulari as a rotational guy is solid. Even at the next level, I like Okereke and I like McFadden. Like, the Giants have a decent front seven. Really solid, actually. But how about that back five? Like, what are we getting here from the nickel formation with these three cornerbacks, Andrew Phillips as well being one of those young guys to develop, and then again those safeties, Nubin and Pinnock. So what are we getting in that secondary? Are we getting a bunch of young players who have no experience and end up collapsing because of that? Or are we getting a bunch of young players who have great leadership qualities and end up developing at a rapid pace and bursting onto the scene and creating Legion of Boom 2.0? I don't know. Like, it's totally possible. So I'm keeping the closest eye on that secondary throughout the first portion of this season. I'm really excited on Sunday afternoon, Alex, to see this defensive line finally get to work, right? Like, they're going up against this Vikings team, which its offensive line isn't terrible, but it's not great by any means. It's definitely got its weaknesses. And there's a quarterback under center in Sam Darnold who, let's face it, really does not play well under pressure. If the Giants' pressure gets home, that secondary, however weak it might be, might not look as weak because it's benefiting from a really good pass rush. So, just get after Sam Darnold in week one, force him to throw some errant passes, create some turnovers. Maybe Deonte Banks gets a pick, puts the offense in decent field position, and then it's just up to Malik Neighbors and the rest of the offensive players to actually convert those opportunities and score some touchdowns. Because last season, we won the takeaway battle. We had more takeaways than any team, tied with the Baltimore Ravens. We did a phenomenal job forcing those turnovers and then did nothing with them. The Giants offense did nothing with those turnovers. Just failed the defense almost every single time. That's how it felt. This year, that can't be the case. Like, Brian Daboll's calling the plays. You expect the offense to be more explosive. You got a playmaker in Neighbors. You improve the offensive line and spent a bunch of money on it. And you've got better backfield, at least in terms of depth. Like, there's really no excuses. The Giants offense just needs to score points this year. And if it doesn't, this team is not going to do well. This team is going to lose a lot of games. And then Joe Schoen's comments that we discussed at the beginning of this episode are going to become a lot more relevant. So those are my keys. And again, I'm really excited for Sunday's game and hoping to see this pass rush force some bad throws. And hopefully the secondary gets the season off on a right foot, carries that momentum throughout the year, and we start to feel a lot better about it. But Alex, any closing thoughts here before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll do a pregame kind of review probably, like Friday or Saturday. We'll talk about the catalyst and what we think the Giants need to do to win this one. But also tonight, Anthony and I, we have a live stream, so make sure to tune into that. I'll let you give the details about the live stream, who's going to be on, and, just kind of what we're looking to do. Some community building, have some fun, talk to you guys, get your guys' takes and opinions, and overall kind of feeling going into the season. I know it's a lot of mixed reviews, a lot of mixed emotion. We just want the Giants to win. And I've been a little concerned about the way Joe Schoen has spoken about this team, things he said, things he's doing recently. So that definitely has not made me feel really confident. But there are individual players on this team I do really like and do think are going to be excellent football players this year. And, got to start somewhere. And I think that's a good place to start.
Absolutely, I'm with you. And tonight's live stream is going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to tune in. We've been doing these weekly. Today we have two special guests. It's our regular season kickoff live streaming. We're collaborating with a couple of other Giants content creators that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Diggy546, he was on the channel last week on the live stream. Love talking with him. He's got really great Giants insight. And new to the channel, Authentic. I'm sure many of you know him. He's got a show, Authentic and the Beard. He kind of recaps the whole NFC East on that show, but does a lot of Giants content on social media. Really cool guy, and we're happy to have him on the channel for the first time tonight. So make sure to tune in. Alex will actually be making it to this live stream. Usually I got to solo dolo those things. Alex is going to make a little appearance tonight, so tune in. Let's have some fun. It should be a good time.
I'm sure I'm going to get into some arguments with people, but honestly, I love it. Like, guys, it's sports. This is what it's all about, having fun, having good conversation, having some arguments, some debates. I respect your guys' opinions, even if we disagree on the Giants. End of the day, it's just we all love the same team. All we want is for this to be a dynasty. All we want is for this team to win. Maybe we just have different ideas on how we're going to get there. It's always a good time to connect with you guys in any case.
Yeah, no doubt. Always a fun time, and we're ready to rock and roll. Regular season is here. Can't wait for it. The content is only going to continue to increase. The output is going to continue to increase, and the quality is going to continue to increase throughout the year. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.